Hi, my name's Aimee, and I just want to take some time today just to share my story with you about how God has come into my life and how He's really stepped in so many times, and just share some stories with you of how I know God is a healer. I know that He is alive today and He's still working and He's still good, even when everything around us seems to be crumbling down. So growing up, I didn't go to Sunday school, I didn't go to church, but I went to GB and I heard stories about Jesus, but that's all it was really. It was only stories from a storybook. I didn't really have a personal faith. But when I was around 10, my mum decided that she would go to church. And I thought, well, I may as well go along and see what this is all about. So I remember going to church and hearing stories again about Jesus, but it was only a religion, I knew about it, but I hadn't asked Jesus to come into my heart. I didn't really understand it. I didn't understand how this God could still be alive today and work today. So it was only then, a few years later, my brother got really ill and we didn't know what was wrong with him. And he went to the hospital and the doctors and nurses said that he had a superbug at the time and they sent him home. But as the days went on, he got worse and worse and sicker. And I remember praying, I said, God, if there's something wrong here, please just send us help. And really a few days later, I heard a massive bang on our front door around 7 o'clock at night. And I don't think I'll ever forget it. There was a man standing at the door and he said that he was a doctor. He wasn't our doctor, and we also hadn't phoned a doctor that day. And he said he was driving home from his last shift and my brother's name came into his head, Mark Lowry, and he went back and opened up the doctor's surgery and he came to our house and he said, you have to get your son to the hospital in the next few minutes. We don't have time for an ambulance. So when we arrived, his appendix had been burst for a few days and the infection had spread through his body. He was very ill. He had to go for emergency surgery. And it was then that I stepped back and I prayed and I said, God, wow, you sent that man today to save my brother's life. And I gave God my life, my whole life. And I said, I know that you're real. You're still healing. You're still alive. You're alive today and come into my heart. And I just said thank you to God for saving my brother's life. And I remember my mum at the time, she was standing over my brother before he went in for this surgery, and she felt his arm wrap around her. It was almost like a hug. And she said, Aimee, it's okay. And when she looked back, I was in the corner and she knew that it was God's presence with her. My brother said he felt like a protection, like there was no pain. He couldn't feel the pain of it around him. He knew that God was with him. And I guess we all, like my family, all give our lives to Jesus. It was just incredible. So moving on from that, through school, I knew who God was. And I guess things were pretty good, but I didn't really let my faith grow. So it wasn't until then I went to university when I went through a really difficult time. 3 of my family members sadly passed away. I had, in a very short space of time, in the space of a few months, and it had a really bad impact on me. It gave me a lot of anxiety, and I had this fear of death. I had a fear of bad things happening. My stomach, if you've had anxiety before, you'll understand it's like tightening, like your stomach, you can't relax. It's always there. And I just thought I was just crippled by fear. I was crippled by what was going on around me. And just when I thought that it couldn't get any worse, my dad took a pain in his neck and he went to the hospital. And when he was there, they actually found a tumour wrapped around his spinal cord and close to his brain, and they found a tumour there and it didn't look good. So he came home and once again God stepped in. We didn't know what was going to happen, but the consultant from the Royal, the neurosurgeon, phoned our house and said, put your dad in a car, drive very slowly. The paralysis may already start to kick in and we need to perform surgery. So once again, we were back in hospital and we were told that my dad would have a surgery, and they didn't know how it was going to look. They didn't know if he would walk again. They didn't know if he would come out alive. They didn't know if they would be able to get it all removed. And the best case scenario really was that he would be in an induced coma. So in that moment, I thought, God, where are you in all of this? I need you to break through. I need you to show me who you are. I have known you to be good. I've known you to intercede and to perform miracles, and I need you, Father. I need you. So I just remember during the whole 8 hours of his surgery, I was outside and in my garden, and I just started to pray, and I just started to think of who God was. I said, you're our healer, you're our provider, you're good, you're love, you're hope. You are a comforter, you're a rescuer, you're a saviour. And I didn't run out of words to describe God for the whole 8 hours. And at one point I stopped and I was prompted to open my Bible, and it said, the Lord has healed all of our sicknesses and removed our diseases. And I ran up to my brother's room and I said, Dad is going to be okay, God has healed him. And we just prayed and we thanked God, and a few minutes later we got the phone call. Your dad's not in intensive care, your dad is sitting up. The next day he was walking. It was a complete miracle. All of the neurosurgeons in the Royal Hospital were shaking his hand saying, wow, this is incredible. We didn't expect this to happen. This is a really major success. It's a miracle. And the nurse in the hospital said, wow, we haven't seen somebody up walking after a spinal cord surgery the next day. In 30 years, this hasn't happened. I've never seen this before. It was a complete miracle, and I just knew, wow, God, you are so good. But during that surgery, a girl had sent me a song, No Longer Slave to Fear. It says, I'm no longer a slave to fear, I am a child of God. And I remember praying, and I said, God, if you save my life, my dad's life, I will always remember that I am not a slave to fear, that I am a child of God, and I don't have to be afraid because you're always with me. And that summer I went to California, and it was like a Christian camp, and I went up to the front, and I still had that anxiety inside me because I was just waiting for the next thing to happen. It had been a really, really tough year, and they started playing that song, and in that moment I just felt God speak to me and say, okay, just breathe in everything good that you know about me, and just breathe out all of those negative memories that you've been holding on to, everything that's been causing you this anxiety. And I did that, and do you know what? I was healed from my anxiety in that moment. It was gone forever. And I always remember the verse in the Bible. It says, for God has not given me a spirit of fear, but of power and of love and of a sound mind. And you know, from that day, I've never struggled with anxiety. I have had a really sound mind, and I know not to be a slave to fear. Even when things around me seem to be falling apart, I know that God's with me and God's still good even in it. So that was a big lesson for me. So I ended up then, after that, I went on Erasmus to Switzerland, and I joined a church there, Hillsong Church, and it was such an amazing season, full of joy. I felt God speaking to me, and I actually got baptised, and I said to God, look, I'm putting my past behind me, I'm looking forward to what lies ahead. And in that moment, I heard God when I was in Germany just say, just start telling people about Jesus. You know, I had gone through so much myself, and God had done so much for me, and now it was the time for me to share this hope with other people, for me to bring the love of Jesus into other people's lives for the first time. So God gave me this girl's face in my mind, and I didn't really know her that well, but I thought, I have to start this ministry for Jesus. So I just reached out to her and said, hey, hope you're okay, just want to let you know that God really cares about you and loves you. And actually it was incredible. Like, that girl really needed to hear that at that time, and she ended up giving her life to Jesus, and her life was radically turned around. And when I saw somebody's life being turned around like that through the message of Jesus, it just overwhelmed my heart with God's love for people. So I ended up going every Monday onto the streets of Belfast with the Belfast prayer team, Current Jesus Ministries, and we just speak to people and we offer them prayer, and we just ask the Holy Spirit to come and heal them. And he did so many times. I watched loads of people's lives just be flipped around, and God just bring healing and restoration and love and joy back into their lives. That was a real blessing for me to watch that, and God can do the same for you. You know, I think sometimes it's not about being this perfect person, this, you know, person that follows all these rules and regulations and laws. Jesus died on the cross for you, because you can't keep all of this religion, you can't keep these laws. We can never live up to that. So Jesus actually died so that we didn't have to. Jesus took our place so that we don't have to live up to that. He just asks for us to come and to repent, to tell him for the things that we're sorry for, how we've lived our lives for ourselves, and just to give him our heart. And he comes in and he gives us life, and he gives us hope, and he brings healing to us. You know, he actually sets us free. So often we think that you know, a lot of people think that when they give their lives to Jesus, that it's all about these rules and regulations they have to follow, but actually it brings freedom. And so if you would like to give your life to Jesus today, I just would love if you could just send me a wee message and we can have a discussion about it, or a FaceTime, and maybe I'll just pray for you. And it's the best decision you could ever make. I know God to be my healer. I know him to be my provider. I know him to be everything. And so I just want that for you. I want you to have that joy in your life. I want you to have Jesus in your heart, because he gives you life in all of its fullness. He fills that void that no one or nothing could ever fill. So I just want to encourage you with that today. Okay.